Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Greco, your host here for the Data Show. And today I have a very special guest. You all know that normally what happens is I bring in my brother, Ralph Greco, and we talk about different media aspects and media reporting of data and things that have to do with data that's reported by media. Well, I got a guest that is she's fantastic. I've seen her show. It's really great. Her name is Sherita Carthon. And before she comes in, I want to just give you a little bit of background on her. So she is a branding expert. I perceive her to be such, right? And she's worked with entertainment companies, nonprofits, small businesses, all these different types of companies for branding aspects and for to figure out their niche markets. And what she kind of helps me out here. So basically, what happens is that she's done this for 19 years, right? There are people that are not even 19 years old yet, right? She's done this for 19 years. Not to give away her age or anything, but she's worked for Gannett newspapers. She's an entrepreneur, of course. Otherwise, why would she be here? Type of thing, right? And she loves to share. So I'm going to put some things down here that I wanted to. So first of all, she's someone who shares and loves it, right? So that's number one. She understands people. That I mean, I've taken a look at her, MA and BA and MA in journalism, right? So this isn't something that she just gains from experience, all and knowledge, right? But she's got it through learning aspects, right? And she has done different things to understand research, because that's her deal. So understands people, understands research. So that's a big deal here with the data show, because we want to figure out exactly where do you get your data, and how does the data work, and how does it help you, and what type of things do you deem as success, and those different types of aspects. And so let's see, she's got some workshops, how to market your brand the right way, the celebrity sales method, and she's got a trade show called Beyond the Algorithm, Power Brand Conference and Expo. And so all these brand offerings for 2023. And she was a program assistant for Crime Victims Assistance Center, which, you talk about empathy, right? So that's a big deal. So without further ado, I want to make sure and bring her in here. Sherita Carthon. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name correctly. If not, please correct me on this thing. Welcome to the Data Show. I'm so happy to have you here. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. So I just watched your show, um,
Yes.
and you had Dr. Madeline on, and she was talking about different aspects. And I sit back and I go, man, people, we use data in different ways, and the data show really focuses on that data aspect. But it's a real big deal for me to see somebody who's applied this stuff with, you had a research position, you still have that research position. There's things that you do, and I just want to get some basic questions out of the way and see what you think about it. So hey, take all the time you need. Just understand, we're going to leave her at 30 minutes. So, but hey, whatever you want. So the first question is, like, how do you determine what brand goes where? Like, if I want a niche brand, Sharita, where do I go? Where's my first step?
Just as with anything, especially data, you have to understand who that target market is that you're going for. So anytime we sit down with someone who really wants to direct their brand, the number one thing we're going to find out data wise is who's the target market, who is the qualifier. So that means, are they even looking at what you're trying to do? And so the way we do the analysis for that brand is being able to go out and test their market. So, of course, yes, definitely a qualifier. So, we're looking at what is the behavior of the market? What is it that that person really needs? What are their pain points? What are some of the things that makes them happy, right? And then we take that data and then we cross compare it against a live audience. So let's just say Facebook advertising. So we're looking at those demographics, seeing what the behaviors are in that target market. So once we're actually crafting that brand, we're actually looking at the psychological behaviors of that target market in order to actually execute that brand plan for the client. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was so interested in what you said. I forgot I was on mute. Sorry. The So how do you determine that psychological behavior? How do you make that work?
The way we make it work is that once we test the market, right? We test the market, we go out and we figure out what specific behaviors. So I'll give you a short story if that helps to illustrate, right? So Lamar Odom, he is a two-time basketball NBA champion, and I wanted to acquire him as a client. But the thing is, I had absolutely no reach whatsoever. But I noticed there were certain things with his brand that needed help. So in order to qualify and direct that brand, I reached out to his management and said, hey, Lamar wants to get an endorsement deal. Lamar wants to connect with children. Lamar wants a new image. And so here are three specific things that he can do in order to do that. So once that is established, and then that management group actually tests the plan and it works, we have enough data to ensure that the brand plan that we have crafted for him to make that work, that it actually works out. So then we know that that psychological experiment kind of that we've done on the audience, we know that it works, and now he's continuing to do that. And so not only I was able to acquire him as a client, but we were also able to test his market to make sure that we were sending out the right message.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize how basic that is, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you're fitting to the person's needs, right? You're not fitting to your you're not trying to fit to your area. You're trying to fit to their area. And the old customer knows best type of aspect. And it's interesting how media works like that. I
yeah,
mean, they literally go out and they try to do things. When I'm doing this show, normally it's about a study like coffee will make you live longer. Coffee longevity. Coffee has to do with longevity. So then we sit down and we take a look at the study, get down into the actual data bits and
yeah,
everything else, and suddenly
yeah,
realize, say, well, that's not exactly true. It could give you a longer life,
yeah.
but it all depends what else you do. But
Right.
in your case, what you're doing is you're saying, look, here's some bits of advice. I'm going to give you free advice. You can take it or toss it, whatever you want.
Yes.
Then you base that, and you didn't base that on just a gut feeling. You
No.
base that on following this guy and understanding where he was. And like you said, he likes children. You didn't find that out just because, you guessed. You went out and did a data dump on this guy and said, okay, look, this is where he loves to do this and this and this and this and this. If
Yes.
he loves to do that and that and that, well, let's give it to him. So all of a sudden that's great. And so basically what we're talking about is what determines success. So what determines success? I mean, other than getting him as a client, what
Of
determines
course.
success?
So the thing is, of course, with any organization, you have to have tools of measurement, right? You have to have those specific elements that you're looking at to say, okay, if we do A, B, C, and D, success looks like this being able to be completed. So for us, we were able to identify three specific things that we needed him to do. Once those three specific things were completed and we got a favorable result, we were able to then determine that that was successful, very simply. But then the thing is, also with tools of measurement, you're retesting over and over again to make sure that
Ah,
that data is consistent. Because if you're testing just one time, it could be a fluke. There could be, something that's a little bit off. But if we're consistently testing that data plan or that psychological plan on his target market over and over, and we get that same result or a very similar result, we determine that that is definitely successful. It's all about consistency and long term.
so how often do you test, Sharita? Is it
Oh yeah.
is it a testing like every week or every day, every
It
month,
depends.
quarterly?
Yes, Chris, it really depends on what the project is. So if it's a long-term project, it may be 6 months to a year that we're actually doing consistent testing back and forth. There may be short-term projects like an event. So if you're taking an event, you're saying, okay, we want to net 100 people to come to this celebrity event. We want 50 people from that 100 people to actually give to his charitable foundation, right? And so the thing is, with that, we have short term goals, but we are also looking at the success based off of our net numbers. Of course, we also base everything off the 80/20 rule as well. So looking at that event, if we get our 80%, we have a 20% error that we can look at to say, okay, we missed it by this much. But we everything we do goes off that 80/20 rule as well.
It's interesting you state that. Now I'm going to throw in statistics. So the 80/20 rule, interestingly enough, and I don't know whether you know the basics, the background on 80/20 rule, but I love it because basically it's by a guy by the name of Pareto, who's an Italian, right? And he found that 20% of the people did
Yeah,
80% of the work, right? So
yeah,
all of a sudden it came up with this 80/20 rule, and that 80/20 rule came into play and it even went into the a Pareto chart, which says, look, if you have seven things, and only two of them make up 80%, those are the two that you want to focus on, not the other five, because the other five's at 20. We don't care about those.
you
It's
don't
not, we
care.
don't care about them, but they're less, right? So that 80% is the one we really want to go to. So,
Yes,
so it's interesting how that it comes into play. And some
yeah,
people, some people don't even realize what they said. Well, I don't know what the 80/20 means, but it's important. So I'm going to go 80. I'm going to go 80%, make sure that 80% is covered. That's what you do. And it
yeah,
works. It works very well. So I wanted to ask you about surveys.
yes,
So when you do surveys, and this is, I mean, I actually took a whole course. Believe it or not, it was a whole graduate course on surveys. I mean, it was just like, how to do them, how to, mostly epidemiology, but basically it was that. How do you do surveys? What's the first thing that comes into your head about survey aspects?
Well, surveys for us is always it's interesting. We act in the aftermarket, so this what it means is that when we have an event or when we actually testing the market, we do a pre and we do a post. So when before we go into the market, we try to understand what the behavior is, and then after that we gather that data. Then after that, we go in and we actually do a specific event, or do a specific task. Once that task is completed, then we're actually going back to that target market again and saying, okay, based off of you going through this particular event or this particular experience, now what is your, what is your feedback? Because you have to have that before and after so that you can basically understand what went right and what went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, this is really brilliant. I mean, it's interesting. A lot of people tell me, they go, "Chris, did you ever do pre-post surveys?" I said, "Heck yeah!" I was when I taught undergraduate statistics, I would go in and do a pre-survey on and my pre-survey, believe it or not, it's kind of a weird pre-survey. I would give them the final test. Literally the
Wow.
final, yeah, I'd give them the final test. I'd say, look, we're gonna do this final test right now. It's gonna take us about an hour. We're just gonna do it, and I do it, and I'd give them the answers, and they'd go, you're gonna give us the answers to the final test? I said, well, yeah, sure. So I gave them the answers, and I said the questions will be exactly the same as on the final test, but the data will be different. So
Mm.
if you are attempting to do just put down the answers, you're going to flunk this test, because the answers are not going to be the same, but the data and the methodology will be the same. So if you can do this
Mm.
data set, you can do any data set.
That's
So it was
amazing.
so the pre-post survey. So I'd always do that one, and then we do a pre-post survey on how much people know and then how much
Mm.
they learned. And it was interesting because sometimes they would actually know less after the class in this certain concept, and I go, oh my gosh, I actually took away their learning of that concept. They knew more when they stepped. That's not a good teaching thing. So it was like, that's where I failed. So I would make sure that I would really focus on that the next time, and make sure that I would go over it again and again so that people would understand that. So in
Yeah.
fact, and my wife, she was a nurse, and they used to do cataract surgery, and they
Yeah.
do a pre pre-surgery where they'd say, can you read a newspaper? What distance can you see? Can you drive? Blah, 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 whatever else. And then afterwards, they would have them answer the same questions. And then they would take that difference and make sure that the difference was that they could see better. If they saw worse after the cataract surgery, that was a problem. So the pre-post survey is a very, very good way
Mm-hmm.
of finding out, as long as, like you say, it's very consistent, and
Yes.
it's done in a way that people don't try to game the system. If you can do it that way, then it really works well. And what's nice about it is it's also a great job satisfaction survey
Mm-hmm.
and customer satisfaction survey, because people sit back and they go, well, Sherita really helped us here, but didn't really help us here, here, here. And you can take a look at that and go, okay, I gotta do better with this next time. So that works.
One of
Go.
the things that we found is that if you don't do a pre-assessment and you try to serve a client, you're actually 9 times out of 10, you're going to miss the mark. Because in the post-survey, the pre-survey, they're telling you what they need. They're telling you what they want from the client. And so if you're not listening to the needs, so the thing is, we have that pre-survey, we understand what their need is, and then we're executing a program, a psychological program, so that we're able to cater to that need. The post survey is more so trying to understand, did we hit the mark or not, if that makes any sense.
Yes, no, that's exactly what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, uh, who does that data collection for you? Do you
Oh,
do it yourself, or do you
well,
actually
so
contract
no,
that
no,
out?
no. This is the fun part. Okay, so we were talking about my history, and there's some really fun things that you don't know about me that I'm going to share with you right now.
Oh, please.
I used to work as a director for a focus group company.
Oh, oh my gosh! You mean like
It
cereal
was
and
like literally
yogurts
years
and
ago. Yeah,
what?
yeah, I mean, like literally, Chris, we would go down and we would get data collection from tailgates at football parties. We would have people to come in and listen to music studies. I know this is like crazy.
Wow, that is really cool. So how'd you go about doing that? How's
So
that done?
So after I was in journalism, I did journalism, came out of school with journalism, but I felt like going into my master's program, of course, a lot of when you're doing your master's program, a lot of it is research. And so that was actually one of my weakest points. And one of my mentors said, hey, why don't you intern or work for a focus group or a research company so you can understand how it works better? And I got so good at it. I mean, I completely forgot working for this company, but I got so good at it that they said, hey, how about you do some managerial director type stuff? And so I learned there how to actually get, do focus groups and get the data and really have a test market. And here's the funny thing, Chris. I even did outside door-to-door type focus group.
Oh, my father
So
would have loved you. He was in marketing. He would have loved you,
yeah,
man.
getting cold surveys,
Yep.
and I completely enjoyed it. Of course, I think I was like my late 20s. I did that for about
So last year then.
last year. But now, when I do empirical data research for clients, I either do it myself because I understand the ropes of it. If it's a little bit more detailed and I need a little bit more information, I will hire a focus group company to handle that for us.
That is amazing. So how did you make up this and this is the toughest part, right? How
Yes,
did you make up the surveys? What did you what so when you're sitting down and saying, okay, I got a survey, A,
yes,
about B.
yes.
How do you go about, I know how, but tell the audience, how do you go about doing that? You actually
Okay,
applied this stuff.
so of course, I mean, when I was working for the research group, we had teams of people who would actually do the back end research, content information, so that they can could get the survey questions. But for me, it came from again, it for me, all of my surveys comes back to not having the information that I need to make another step for a brand client. So I'm asking the client or the research group these questions so that I can fill in these answers.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're talking to the client, you know, and you're talking to the customers, and
Yes.
you're trying to figure out, okay, where's that? Okay, you can
Because
now. Oh, go ahead, go
because
ahead.
data is like data research is like pieces of a puzzle, right, Chris? You're trying to put these pieces of the puzzle together. If there are three pieces that's missing, technically the puzzle is not complete, and you need those pieces of the puzzle. So a lot of it, when you're really trying to understand how to achieve this end goal, is sitting down and looking at the holes. And the thing is, the holes are going to tell you what answers or what questions you need to ask to not only the client, but also the focus group so that you can get the information you need in order to take it to the next step. So yeah, that's how
Yeah,
that's how I
I'll
approach
tell you, man.
it.
I'm going to put that up there. How's that?
Looking at the
You know?
holes, not the donuts.
Right? Because you can see the donuts,
You
but you
can
can't
see
see
the
the
holes.
holes. So you got to try to detect where the holes are, right?
Looking at
So
the
it's,
holes.
no, you got to understand the holes. That
You
I
can't
would,
get you
you know,
can't get munchkins. You got to get donuts.
that's right.
Right?
That's right. Exactly. No,
The holes.
and interestingly enough, I was in intelligence, right? I was in Air Force intelligence
Yes.
for years, and that's what we used to look for. Not the information that's there, but
Yep.
the information that could be there. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, you sit back and you go, oh wow, this
Mhm.
target A has moved from here to here. Why
Yes.
did they move from here to here, and what happened in that? Not so much the the where they came from or went
Mhm.
to, but what happened in that area,
In the middle.
that
Yes.
hole, right? And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to put all this information together. That
Yes.
is so cool. So how do you come up with the questions? Oh, okay, you got to take me through a focus group thing. So you don't have to
Okay.
name the brand, but just do a focus group. Give me a story about a focus group. I got to hear this. Go ahead, please. I got to hear this.
Okay, so just thinking back when I was at the focus group company, I can tell you on one instance with a tailgate party. So we had to dispatch several teams out to the tailgate party to understand the tailgate experience versus the box experience in like the third floor or those type of experiences. So when we were trying, this is really weird.
Wow.
So when we were trying to figure this out, the way we came up with the questions were we categorized each section. So we had the tailgaters who came early. We had the tailgaters who came late. We had the tailgaters who actually ate bratwurst. I don't know why.
What? Well, I mean, it'd be great for a bratwurst company, right?
Right, right. And so
You
the
know, I gotta tell you this one thing. So
okay,
I always wanted to have this bun, right? And go out to a bun company, go out to a bun and say, here's what I want you to have like my slogan for you is going to be for butter or for verst. How's that? So for butter or for verst? What do you think? What do you think?
oh my
What do you think?
God, it might work. It just might work. You got to put that information
Oh, I'm
together.
sorry. I'm sorry. So please go ahead. So please go ahead.
Okay.
I apologize.
So we categorized all of them, and then we also, of course, we looked at regular demographic information, household income, all of those kind of things, and then we also had an opportunity to look at the people who did the box experience and had the booths. And the way we came up with the questions is that particular client was trying to sell more people on the box experience versus doing tailgating. And they wanted to
Oh.
figure out how to get them from tailgating to convert to the box experience. So all of the questions that was created was around them desiring to do more than just a tailgate.
Ah,
Yeah.
got it. In other words, so you have to have that social experience
Hmm.
and the ability to have the basic foods.
Yes.
They don't want like shrimp and all that. They want to have like hot dogs and hamburgers and wurst and things that they can, and hey, something simple you can shove in a bun, put a little ketchup on there, boom, you're done, right?
Right.
Sauerkraut, whatever else. So that, yeah, so
Right.
what
And
happened?
so they were trying to figure out if they created a tailgate type of experience in the box, would they still want to do it? And the thing
Wow.
is, we surveyed 150 tailgaters that day. 150, and it was a team of us. And the data showed that they had absolutely no desire to go to the box. Everything about the tailgate experience is the exact experience that they wanted to have. And they said what you might want to do is bring the box to the tailgate.
I was just
And
going to say that. Hey,
yeah,
just enclose it and allow them to
well,
drive
yeah.
in and do the tailgating right there. Have a little maybe shelves or whatever else, and have a good time. Yeah,
And so it was interesting. Again, I think that of course with focus groups, the goals are specific. So you are questioning so that you can achieve a specific result. You're looking to see if you can launch a new product. You're looking to see, you're asking questions because you want to qualify the lead before you do all of that work. And so that is the beautiful thing about data research, is that you have the opportunity to look at content that will allow you to make a more sound decision versus being random and wild and just kind of putting something out there, not really knowing what it is that you're doing, or even knowing if the target market is going to accept it. Because again, we're creatures of habit. And so if you ask me, do I love to eat ice cream? I It's one of my favorite foods. And then if you really want to know the kind of ice cream I like, I like gelato. So it's data research is all about human research. It's all about understanding our motivations and what it is that we need in order to continue to thrive and evolve in this world. That's what
yeah,
my thought is.
yeah. I mean, it's so the survey was at a Likert scale, 1 to 5. I really
Yes.
like this, or so that's normally what it is. But
Right. So it
just
was liquor scale. I didn't even know that's what they call it.
yes, yes, that's
Liquor
that.
scale.
Well, it was named by a basically sociologist, Likert, and that's what they call it, Likert. That's
Yeah.
called a
See,
Likert
I'm
scale, one to
figuring
one
it
to
out.
five, because there's two on either side, and then that three is in the center area.
So we did the little scale. We also did the satisfactory and
Yep.
unsatisfactory. Dissatisfied, dissatisfied. But it was, yeah, satisfied or dissatisfied. Yeah.
Well, I only have about a minute and a half left. I mean, like I
Oh,
said, yeah, I'm telling you, this goes quick. 30 minutes, like it's over. So I just want to let you know, would it be okay if I asked you back?
yeah.
I just I
I
yeah
would love to be back.
I'd
Yes.
love I'd love to come back and talk with you some more about that. And this time I'd like to bring in my brother, because
Yes.
he's from Ohio State. He does data analytics for Ohio State,
Wow.
and I'm sure he'd have a ton more questions to ask you that I probably wouldn't even think of. Even though we're brothers, we kind of think differently from that standpoint. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed. This is
Thank you,
so
Chris.
much fun to do. I mean, and you get the application side, right?
Yes.
I talk about applications and things like that, but never really hit that home. And you've really hit it home today. So I'd like to thank you, and I will definitely bring you back.
Thank you so much.
At your time. So thank you so much, and hey, have a great rest of the day.
You too, Chris. Thank you.
Well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching us. This is the Data Show with Chris Krecker as a host. We call ourselves the Statistics Sleuths, but today we had a special guest, and I was just so happy to have her on. And I hope she comes back. I hope she's okay coming back. I didn't scare her off with all the statistics talk. But thank you so much for listening and watching, and have a great rest of the day, everybody. And thanks again.